For 10 years, I thought my life was solid. Stable job, stable marriage, stable routine. I wasn't flashy or rich, but I worked hard and stayed loyal. Her name was Danielle. We met in college. I used to make her laugh so hard she'd spill her coffee. She'd call me Mr. Reliable, and I took that as a badge of honor. But I didn't realize reliable eventually became boring to her. We had a simple life. I worked as a senior manager at a logistics firm. Nothing glamorous, but we lived comfortably. We had a nice apartment, 2 cars, and a dog named Milo. Danielle was a part-time interior designer, though she hadn't taken a contract in months. I handled most of the bills, happily. She used to say, "Baby, as long as we have each other, nothing else matters." I believed her. Then one day, I noticed a shift. She stopped laughing at my jokes. Her phone was always upside down on the table. She started working out more, buying new clothes, and constantly texting someone, but never me. I wanted to ask her what was going on, but I didn't want to seem paranoid. I chalked it up to stress. Then it happened. One evening, I came home early from work, holding her favorite Thai takeout. I walked in with a smile, only to hear her laughing in the bedroom, on a video call. When I opened the door, she jumped like I caught her stealing. "Who was that?" I asked. "No one. Just a friend from my design group," she stuttered. I knew she was lying. That gut feeling hit me like a truck. 3 days later, I finally got the truth without asking. I came home to find the apartment half empty. Drawers open. My suit's gone. Her clothes packed. Milo's leash still hanging untouched. There was a note on the kitchen counter. "I can't live like this anymore. I've met someone who makes me feel alive. I hope you understand. Don't try to find me. Danielle." I stood there in shock. After 10 years, that was it? A single note? No face-to-face talk. No explanation. Just a piece of paper. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind was spinning. Who was this guy? Where did she go? Why wasn't I enough? But something inside me snapped, not from sadness, but from clarity. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to transform. The next morning, I walked into my office and stared at myself in the bathroom mirror. Unshaved, tired eyes, same routine polo shirt. "This ends today," I whispered. I walked out, handed in my resignation letter, and walked straight into a new life. A friend had once offered me a position at his startup, but I turned it down out of loyalty to Danielle. That was over now. I called him up and said, "I'm ready." That decision would set off a chain of events no one, especially Danielle, could have predicted. Because the man she left me for? He worked at a company I was about to acquire. But she didn't know that yet. The morning after I quit my job, I met with Kyle, the same friend who'd offered me a stake in his logistics tech startup 2 years ago. Back then, I declined out of comfort and loyalty. Now, I walked into his office like a man with nothing left to lose. Kyle grinned when he saw me. "You finally done playing it safe, Noah?" I nodded, handing him my resignation letter. "I'm in. Full-time. Let's build something." He didn't hesitate. "We're about to close Series B funding. You come in as a partner and chief operating officer. This time, I want you at the table, not in the background." It was more than I expected. I didn't need to be begged. I said yes. The next few months were a whirlwind. I worked 16-hour days, flying between suppliers and clients, sleeping under my desk some nights. My hunger was real, driven by heartbreak, rage, and something else, purpose. I didn't want revenge at first. I just wanted to become the kind of man who couldn't be discarded. But that changed when I found out who she left me for. His name was Ethan, a 29-year-old fitness coach turned life consultant. I discovered this through a friend who worked at her gym. They'd met at one of Danielle's yoga sessions. He was tall, tanned, and full of himself. Flashy car, motivational quotes on Instagram, fake smiles, shallow charm. Classic. One evening, I made the mistake of checking her social media. There she was, smiling wide next to Ethan, both in swimsuits by a rooftop pool, captioned, "Sometimes, you have to leave comfort to find happiness." Hashtag new beginnings, hashtag grateful. My hands clenched. Not because I missed her, but because I realized she truly believed I was the problem. She thought she'd upgraded. But what she didn't know, Ethan worked at one of our key competitors, a boutique wellness company with deep ties to logistics and distribution. A company my new firm had been negotiating to acquire for months. Ethan wasn't a major player, he was middle management. But the irony wasn't lost on me. The man she chose over me? He worked in a building I now had the power to walk into and buy. Kyle and I finalized the acquisition quietly. Legal teams, paperwork, stock options, nothing flashy. Just business. The day the acquisition closed, I wore a tailored navy suit. The kind I used to think was too extra. I walked into Ethan's office unannounced, flanked by the new HR director. "Ethan Reynolds?" I asked. He looked up, confused, then smiled politely. "Yeah." I extended my hand. "Noah Carter, new part owner of this company." His face went pale. He didn't shake my hand. "Starting next week, we'll be restructuring departments," I continued. "Your position will be under review." His smile cracked. "Wait, what?" "You'll receive the details by email. Have a good day." I didn't fire him right away. No. That would have been too merciful. I let him sweat. Let him feel small. Every email, every meeting, he saw me, and he knew. That's when it started. The cracks in Danielle's perfect new life. Because she had no idea yet who her new boyfriend now worked for. But she would very soon. A few days after the acquisition, I received a text from Danielle. It was the first time she had reached out since she walked out of my apartment 6 months earlier. "Hey, stranger smiling face with smiling eyes, just saw your name pop up on LinkedIn. Wow. You've really been busy, huh?" I stared at the message for a minute before locking my phone. No reply. She was testing the waters. Later that week, our company hosted an industry gala celebrating the merger. It was black tie, invitation only, and filled with CEOs, investors, media, and influencers. We didn't publicize the guest list, but Danielle found out anyway. Because Ethan received an invitation, with my signature on the bottom. I made sure of that. Kyle and I agreed we needed press. And nothing says, power move, like making your enemies praise you in public. Ethan, dressed in his best suit, walked into the Grand Ascension Hotel ballroom like he belonged. Danielle clung to his arm, smiling wide. But as soon as they saw the welcome banner, celebrating the new era, Carter and Hayes Logistics, Danielle stopped walking. Her lips parted. "Carter?" Ethan glanced around nervously. I didn't know it was him." That's when the photographers noticed me on stage. Standing behind the mic, I held a champagne flute and cleared my throat. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I began. 6 months ago, I lost my job and the woman I thought I'd build a life with. But today, I stand before you as co-owner of one of the fastest-growing logistics tech firms in the country." Danielle's jaw dropped. Ethan looked ready to faint. I scanned the crowd. Then I locked eyes with her. "And tonight's success," I said slowly, "isn't about revenge. It's about rising when you're expected to stay down. It's about knowing your worth even when others don't. A murmur swept through the crowd. Danielle turned away. But it was too late. People had already seen her. Whispers started. Someone near her said, "Isn't that the girl he used to date?" Another voice added, "She left him for that guy?" Laughter followed. The rest of the night was glorious. Investors patted me on the back. Old colleagues who once mocked my community college background now wanted lunch meetings. And Danielle? She stayed glued to a corner table, sipping her drink in silence. Her smile? Gone. The next day, the pictures went viral. One headline read, "From dump to dominant, how Noah Carter bought the company his ex's boyfriend worked for." Danielle posted nothing for days. Ethan's account went private. Then, she messaged again. "You look great at the gala. I didn't know you were doing so well. Maybe we could talk sometime?" This time I replied, "Sorry, I'm really busy running my company. But I hope you and Ethan are happy. He works for a great team." No emojis. No sarcasm. Just polite indifference. Because I wasn't chasing revenge anymore. I had become the man they never saw coming. And Danielle? She was about to learn that when you gamble with someone's heart, you better pray he doesn't build an empire from the pieces. After the gala, Danielle tried to fade back into her perfect world. She stopped messaging me, probably realizing I wouldn't bite. But the damage was already done. Her shiny new romance with Ethan had started to tarnish, and I hadn't even lifted a finger. I didn't need to sabotage anything. The truth was working just fine on its own. A week later, I got a call from one of the junior managers at the wellness company, Ethan's department. The guy was nervous but curious. "Hey, Mr. Carter? I just thought you'd want to know. Ethan's been missing meetings, and people are starting to talk. Rumor is he's blaming his mental burnout on upper management." Typical. Instead of owning his failures, he was trying to spin the story. I didn't respond. I just told HR to keep monitoring his behavior and document everything. Ethan was on thin ice, and everyone in that building could feel it. But the real twist came when I bumped into Danielle again. It was completely unplanned. I was having lunch at a rooftop cafe with a potential investor when I saw her, standing at the entrance, clearly waiting for someone. She looked different. Not in a glamorous Instagram way. She looked tired. Makeup couldn't hide the puffiness under her eyes. Then she saw me. Our eyes locked, and for a moment, the confident woman who walked out on me vanished. What remained was someone shaken, insecure, maybe even regretful. She walked over slowly. "Noah," she said, "can we talk?" I glanced at my guest and gestured for a minute. "Sure." We stepped aside to a quiet corner near the edge of the terrace. She forced a smile. "I wasn't expecting to see you here." "Clearly," I replied. She took a deep breath. "Look, I know everything's weird now, but I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. Truly." I nodded. "Thanks. Life's funny, huh?" She hesitated, eyes darting. And then it slipped. "I didn't know he was working for you. I swear, I had no idea. When we got together, you were still, well, you know. Still beneath you?" I offered. She blinked, speechless. "I was going to say still at your old job," she whispered. "But yeah, I guess I didn't expect you to come back like this." There it was. Her truth. I leaned in slightly. "Danielle, let me make something clear. I didn't come back for you. I didn't rise to prove anything to you. But I'll admit, watching you realize what you gave up, that's been satisfying." She dropped her gaze. "I'm not happy, Noah," she said suddenly. It caught me off guard. "Ethan isn't who I thought he was. He's lazy. He's insecure. And now that he knows you're his boss, he's spiraling." I didn't say a word. just watched her unravel. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. "Do you ever think we could go back? You and me?" That was her mistake. Trying to frame the past as if it was still an option. I stepped back. "Danielle, I wish you well. I really do. But I've built something too valuable to invite old ghosts into it." She didn't try to argue. She just nodded slowly. As I walked away, I didn't feel anger or victory. I felt peace. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Because people like Danielle don't let go until they've ruined everything around them. And Ethan? He was about to crash hard. 2 weeks later, I walked into a Monday morning executive meeting ready to discuss expansion plans. But the mood in the room was already tense. Kyle leaned toward me, his voice low. "We've got a situation with Ethan." I didn't blink. "What kind of situation?" He slid a file across the table. Inside were printouts of inappropriate emails Ethan had sent to junior staff, complaints of erratic behavior, and even screenshots of him badmouthing upper management, specifically me. "It's enough to fire him 3 times over," Kyle muttered. "Legal says we're covered. You want to pull the trigger?" I closed the file slowly. "Let's do it. But not in private." Kyle raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" I nodded. "Let him feel it." We scheduled the meeting for Friday. HR, 2 directors, and myself in one room. Ethan walked in, looking like a man halfway through his own nightmare. His once gelled hair was messy, shirt untucked, bags under his eyes. He took the seat across from me. "What's this about?" he asked, trying to sound calm. I tapped the folder. "Your behavior. Your comments. Your violations of policy." He scoffed. "Are you kidding me? You're just doing this because of Danielle." That was his defense? I leaned forward. "Let me be crystal clear, Ethan. This isn't personal. It's professional. You disrespected your team, broke multiple codes of conduct, and failed to meet your targets. You had chances to improve. You chose not to." He shot up from his chair. "You're just bitter I'm with her." I remained seated, calm, collected. "No," I said. "I'm grateful. You showed me who she really is." HR handed him his termination letter. He grabbed it, shaking, then stormed out without another word. The room was silent. Kyle exhaled. "Well, that was intense." I smiled faintly. "It's handled." But what I didn't expect was how Danielle would react. That night, I received an angry voicemail from her. No greeting, just venom. "How dare you humiliate him like that? You think you're so powerful now? You're nothing but a cold, petty man. He's broken Noah." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The next morning, she showed up outside my building. I spotted her through the glass, standing in the lobby in heels and a designer coat, eyes red and voice raised at the receptionist. I walked down to meet her. "Noah," she began, "please just give me a second." I nodded. "You've got 30. Tears welled up in her eyes. "You ruined him. You could have just let him go quietly." I crossed my arms. "He ruined himself. I gave him a chance to rise, and he chose to sink." "But you knew," she cried. "You knew it would destroy him." "I did," I said honestly. "And that's why I'm not sorry." She slapped me. Right there in the lobby. Loud. Sharp. Gasps echoed. My security stepped forward, but I held up a hand. "Escort her out," I said calmly. As they led her out, she screamed behind her. "You'll regret this, Noah. One day, you'll be the one left with nothing." After the lobby scene, Danielle's meltdown became office gossip. Word spread fast, especially in our industry, where drama fuels whispers like wildfire. I stayed calm, professional. But I knew Danielle wasn't going away quietly. And I was right. 3 days later, my assistant rushed into my office holding a manila envelope. "Noah, this just came in. No name, no return address." Inside were printed screenshots. Private messages. Some real, some doctored. Conversations supposedly between me and a junior employee. Flirty ones. Inappropriate ones. The kind that could destroy a reputation if taken at face value. I knew instantly, Danielle. This wasn't some random blackmailer. This was personal. Desperate. Kyle and I reviewed the messages. We cross-checked them. One of the screenshots included a meeting reference that had never happened. Another used phrases I never say. "They're fake," Kyle confirmed. "But if this hits online before we respond, it could do damage." I nodded. "We get ahead of it. Fast." Our legal team prepared a statement and contacted the PR firm we work with. We ran a digital audit across all employee accounts, confirming the messages were fabricated. Meanwhile, I reached out, quietly, to the junior employee in question. She was shaken. But when I explained the situation calmly, professionally, she said, "I figured it wasn't real. I just didn't know who would go that far." I did. The next morning, I received a call from one of Danielle's old friends, Erica, someone she had cut off years ago. She had seen the screenshots and reached out. "I know Danielle sent them." Months had passed since Danielle's attempt to destroy my reputation. The company had recovered swiftly, faster than I expected, actually, and our newest wellness app was going viral. My name started appearing on industry blogs, startup podcasts, and even a few magazine covers. Then came the email. Subject: Nomination, Entrepreneur of the Year, Rising Leaders Summit. I stared at it for a full minute. This wasn't just another conference. This was the event Danielle and I used to dream about. We used to sit on our old couch with takeout and promise that someday, one of us would be up there accepting an award. Now it was me. When the night finally arrived, I stood backstage in a tailored black suit, listening to the muffled applause of the crowd as the host introduced me. "From rock bottom to empire builder, our next awardee is proof that resilience is the greatest currency of all." I stepped onto the stage to a roar of cheers. Flashbulbs. Standing ovation. And there, sitting near the middle of the audience, was Danielle. She hadn't changed much. Still poised. Still beautiful. But this time, the sparkle in her eyes wasn't pride, it was disbelief. She hadn't known I'd be here. Or maybe she had, and came anyway, hoping to reclaim some piece of the past. I accepted the trophy, thanked my team, my late parents, and quietly, the heartbreak that fueled it all. Backstage, I expected to be flooded with congratulations. I didn't expect Danielle to approach me. She came alone, holding a glass of champagne, the same way she used to after small milestones. "Noah," she said softly. "That speech, wow." I nodded. "Didn't expect to see you here. I'm consulting with a brand that's one of the sponsors," she replied. "Didn't realize you were the Noah Carter on the list." We stood there, silence stretching between us like a wire about to snap. "You look good," she said. I gave her a small smile. "I feel good." She took a breath. "Listen, I know I've made mistakes. Huge ones. And I don't expect forgiveness. But I wanted to say something I never did before." I waited. "I'm sorry I didn't believe in you. I'm sorry I left when things got hard. And I'm sorry I didn't see your worth until it was too late." That last part landed harder than I expected. She meant it. And yet, I didn't feel the urge to gloat or throw it back in her face. "I appreciate you saying that," I said genuinely. "But Danielle, I don't need closure. I already got it the day I realized I didn't need to prove anything to you. She looked down, swallowed. I envy you, she whispered. You turned all that pain into purpose. Pain's a good teacher, I said, but you've got to choose the lesson. I walked away then, not because I hated her, but because I no longer needed her presence to feel whole. She came to see my downfall, but instead she witnessed my rise. And deep down, I think that hurt her more than anything I could have said. 2 weeks after the awards night, I was in a boardroom at Skywell Global, a Fortune 500 company, pitching a joint venture. They had watched my company's meteoric rise and wanted a piece of it. But I wasn't just there for investment. I had a bigger plan. As I waited for the VP of Acquisitions to arrive, I scrolled through my phone. An email caught my eye. Subject: Job application, Danielle Rivers. I froze. It couldn't be, but yes, it was her. She had applied for a creative consultant role at our Paris expansion branch. She didn't know I'd be copied in on executive applications. Apparently, she still hadn't figured out that I wasn't just the face of the company, I was the owner. I didn't delete it. I flagged it. Just then, the boardroom door opened. The VP walked in, shook my hand, and said, Noah, let's make history today. By the end of that meeting, we had secured a multi-million-dollar partnership. My startup was now scaling into 10 countries. I was no longer the man who was left behind. I was leading the race. That night, I opened Danielle's application again. Her resume was clean, well-designed, and frankly impressive. But it was the cover letter that made me pause. Sometimes you lose things to find yourself. I've learned from my mistakes, and I'm ready to rebuild with integrity. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or feel something deeper. Did she know this would reach me? Or was this the universe tying a final bow on the mess she once left behind? I brought it up during our next leadership meeting. My HR director, Gina, said, She's got talent. But are you comfortable with this? I nodded. Hire her. Gasps. Silence. Kyle, now our COO, leaned forward. You sure? After everything? I'm not doing it for her, I said. I'm doing it to prove something to myself. That I'm not her. That I don't need to punish people to win. A month later, Danielle walked into the Paris office for orientation. She looked stunned when she saw the company intro video. There I was, front and center, welcoming new hires. She asked the trainer, Is that Noah Carter? As in the Noah? The trainer smiled. Our founder. You'll love working for him. He built this place with integrity. Word traveled fast. She sent me a message. You hired me? I replied. You earned it. Just do better this time. From that point, we never spoke directly again. She worked well, kept her head down, and stayed professional. And I respected her for that. But the poetic justice wasn't in firing her, or humiliating her, or exposing her past. It was giving her the opportunity to become what she'd failed to be with me. And in doing so, I proved that real revenge isn't loud. It's quiet success. It's choosing growth over grudges. Because while she thought she had left behind a boring man, she had no idea she was walking away from a future CEO. And now, the life she once mocked was the empire she quietly worked for. It had been nearly a year since Danielle joined the Paris branch. Quiet, professional, and never once out of line. She had earned the trust of the team, spearheaded 2 successful campaigns, and even trained new hires. But we had never spoken directly since her onboarding. Until I got a message from our HR director. Danielle has requested a one-on-one meeting with you while you're in Paris next week. She says it's personal, not professional. I hesitated. My first instinct was to decline. I had nothing left to say. But a part of me, maybe the same part that had once loved her, was curious. So I agreed. The meeting was set at a rooftop cafe near the Seine. She arrived early, dressed simply. No designer labels. No makeup mask. Just Danielle, as she really was. She stood when I arrived and gave a soft smile. "Thank you for coming." Saturday. "What did you want to talk about?" She exhaled slowly, her hand shaking a little around her coffee mug. "Noah, I know I have no right to ask for your time. But I've watched you from afar all year, how you lead, how people admire you. And I realized something." I said nothing. I let her speak. "I was wrong about everything," she continued. "Back then, I thought success came through shortcuts. That love was about security, not character. I judged you for not being there yet, when in truth, you were just on your way. And I wasn't willing to walk with you through it." There were tears in her eyes now, but she didn't let them fall. "I've grown more in this year than I did in the 5 we were together. And it's because of this job. Because you gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve one." I nodded slowly. "I didn't do it for you. I did it for me." "I know," she said. "That's why it meant so much." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small box. "This isn't a bribe or anything weird. It's just a token." I opened it. Inside was a vintage compass engraved with the words, "Stay true to your path." "I saw it in a shop window and thought of you," she said. "Because no matter what I did, you stayed your course. And now, you've built something remarkable." For a long time, we just sat there, the breeze picking up, the Eiffel Tower glinting in the distance. Finally, I said, "I appreciate this, and I hope you continue to find your way forward." She smiled, genuinely. "I will, because now I know what forward really means." We didn't hug. We didn't make dramatic promises. We just nodded, two people who had been through something that shaped them both in different ways. As I left the cafe, I looked down at the compass in my hand. Years ago, I had begged Danielle to believe in my dream. Now, she was thanking me for building it without her. That was the moment I knew. I had already won. Not through revenge. Not through power. But through becoming everything she once said I couldn't be. A few months after that rooftop meeting in Paris, life felt full, peaceful. My days were consumed by purpose, launching new projects, mentoring young founders, and even spending quiet evenings with someone new, someone who had nothing to do with my past. Her name was Ava, a documentary filmmaker with wild ideas and a heart that didn't care about titles or net worth. The first time she met me, she didn't ask what I did. She asked what made me happy. That question stuck with me. I used to think proving Danielle wrong would make me happy. But now, it wasn't about her anymore. It was about building something meaningful. Real. One evening, as Ava and I walked through a park near my apartment, we passed a newsstand. There, on the cover of a tech magazine, was me. The headline read, "From Broken to Billionaire, Noah Carter's Road to Redemption." Ava raised an eyebrow. "So that's what you've been hiding." I laughed. "I prefer the quiet life these days." She smiled. "Power looks good on you when you wear it humbly." That night, after she left, I sat by the window and thought about everything. The rejection, the heartbreak, the rage, and then the growth, the wins, the healing. I opened an old folder on my laptop, one I hadn't touched in years. It was full of messages from Danielle, photos, voice notes, and dreams we once shared. I read through a few. Some still stung. Others made me smile. But when I reached the last photo, one of us at our old apartment, laughing over takeout, I realized something. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't wish her failure. I didn't need her apology. Because I had let go. Not just of her, but of the version of myself who needed her validation. The boy who begged to be seen. The man who thought being loved meant being chosen. Now, I was chosen by the life I built. By the people who stood by me. By the peace I had earned. I hit delete on the folder. It was time. The next morning, I received an anonymous letter delivered to my office. There was no signature, just neat handwriting and one simple line. "Thank you for teaching me what grace looks like." I knew it was her. And this time, there was no manipulation. No hidden motive. Just closure. I looked out the window of my office, watching the city pulse below me. Somewhere out there, Danielle was living her life. Maybe rebuilding. Maybe finding her own compass. And me? I wasn't the man she left anymore. I was the man I chose to become. We all want revenge at some point, when we're hurt, humiliated, cast aside. But what they don't tell you is this. The best revenge is becoming so whole, they wouldn't recognize the pieces they broke. So, if you're reading this, and someone has counted you out, let them. Because while they're watching your past, you'll be busy writing a future they'll never be part of. And trust me, that's the sweetest revenge of all.